Hello, everyone, and welcome to Workshop 5. Financial planning starts with a goal, not a big bank account. And we'll just take a few minutes to let people log on, and we'll get started just in a couple minutes. Okay, everyone, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. It's a beautiful day here in San Diego, and I hope it's beautiful where you are too. But welcome again to Workshop 5 of our Financial Empowerment Academy. Next slide. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. Make sure you have selected speaker view in the top right-hand corner of your Zoom window. If you have any technical issues during the webinar, feel free to reach out to our training coordinator, Sophie. Her email is right there. And please note that everyone is muted and we cannot see you. So if you have other things to do kind of while you're listening, that's not a problem. We can't see you. And please use the chat feature for any questions throughout the webinar. We will wait until the very end of the workshop to answer any questions. But of course, as you're going along, so you don't forget them, feel free to enter them into the chat. Next slide. If you would like to view any of our past trainings, again, this is workshop number 5. You can go to our website, freetothrive.org, and onto our Financial Empowerment Academy page and to our past trainings page, and you can view past virtual trainings. Next slide. We try to make all of our workshops fun. If you're new joining us today, we will be having an opportunity drawing at the end of the workshop. If you attend the entire live workshop, we will be drawing 3 winners for $25 gift cards. When you sign up or you log into the webinar, everyone's given a random number. So we kind of throw those in a hat and we will pick 3 people out, and winners will be notified via email. Next slide. And now why we are all here today. Again, today is workshop number 5 of Free to Thrive's Financial Empowerment Academy. We launched the Academy just a little over 1 year ago. Our first workshop was in February of last year, just before COVID. And since then, all of our workshops have been virtual. Next slide. Our Financial Empowerment Academy is a first of its kind that gives participants the skills, tools, and support to become financially empowered and independent. This free program is designed for survivors of human trafficking, their families, and also those that serve survivors. So we have a lot of different people on our workshop today, and just know that everyone is welcome to attend and view the workshop. And I'll also remind you that everyone that registers for the workshop will receive a recording of today's workshop. So if you also have to miss part of it, you will definitely be getting an email with the recording. Next slide. We have an incredible group of speakers today. We always have amazing speakers for our workshops, and I'm honored to introduce our 3 guest speakers today, and of course, Dion, our client liaison here at Free to Thrive. My name is Susie Day, and I'm the Director of Development and Survivor Empowerment Programs here at Free to Thrive. And as I mentioned, Dion will be on a little bit later, having a great conversation with Nikki Bell, who is founder and CEO of Lift, Living in Freedom Together. Amazing organization. We also will be hearing from Yvette Quesada, and she is a financial wellness coach with Operation Hope that provides a lot of amazing services that have to do with financial literacy. And our first speaker is Judy Seed, and she is a wealth advisor and partner at Blue Summit Wealth Management. And she's going to kick off our workshop here, really talking about financial planning and goal setting and all kinds of great ideas for really, here we are just already in May, which I can't believe it, but it's never too late to get started on really working toward your financial goals. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Judy.
All right, thank you, Susie. And I just want to express my appreciation for being able to serve your folks here in this group of people today. So welcome, everybody. And we're going to talk about money. This program is called Money Wise, taking control of your money. And I know the word financial freedom has been used here already. I love that sign behind you, Susie, that street sign that said financial freedom just ahead. It would be so great if you could just drive your car and run into it, but it's not that easy. It takes a little more work than that. So I'd like to go to our first slide. And everybody who's on this call today, I'm sure that you're probably going to take some notes, and you know, however you do that, it's probably going to be really helpful, because when we start working with people and their money, we want to talk about your money history. It's very important, because everything we do is kind of filtered through our past. And sometimes it doesn't serve us well, and we have to know to shift our thinking and to, you know, make some new positive experiences. Sometimes people have been troubled by their childhood and how their family dealt with money. For example, I had a client one time who told me that everything in their family was every night at dinner, around the dinner table, it was very stressful, and that the father was always talking about how he couldn't pay all the bills, and that just put a big cloud over their head, and everything was negative about money. In my personal situation, I was very lucky. My childhood, my father was a math teacher, and he taught us about money, and we had a very secure financial home because my parents were both teachers. So everybody's situation is different. You know, was there always money in your family? How did you learn about spending money, for example? I know I raised 3 children, by the way, and I taught them how to spend their money wisely. And so I gave them an allowance, and they could buy their own clothing. That was done for me when I was young. I had a clothing allowance. So there was never, could I get this or could I get that? It was, how much money did I have in my allowance to pay for it? So I learned to make those decisions when I was young. And so, you know, if your family lived paycheck to paycheck, you're going to have a whole different experience. So thinking about that, thinking about what influences your current attitude now, and how you can create success for your financial future. I put this program on for a number of years for victims of domestic violence, of which I was one. Myself, back in 1993, I'll just share with you, I spent some time in a shelter and then went back to my husband to try to work it out, and spent another 2 years figuring out it wasn't going to work out, and finally left in 1995. And when I came out of that, I had to start completely all over again. I lost the house. I started in an apartment. I could barely pay my rent. And so I know this from personal experience. This does not happen overnight. So start small and you can get somewhere. So next slide, please. All right. So what I would like everybody to start thinking about here, and it's so important, are your goals. So what kind of goals are we talking about here? Well, it's not always, sometimes it's a goal of saving enough to, let's say, get into an apartment. That was big for me when I first started, just getting into an apartment. You have to have first month's rent and last month's rent and, your security deposit. And sometimes it's just barely what you can do to save for that. But what do you want to do and what do you want to be? So to reach your goal of being, let's say you want to be a business owner or you want to have a bakery, if that's something you like to do, or maybe you like to craft and you want to have an Etsy business and sell your crafting on Etsy. There's lots of things you can become. You could become a dental hygienist. Maybe your goal then is to get through dental hygienist school. So it starts with a goal and then researching, okay, how do I get to that goal? All the little steps add up. First, it's writing down your goals. And just by writing it down, first we think something, then we speak it, and then we do it. So I think writing is kind of similar to speaking it. But to reach a goal, it always starts up here in your head. You have to think, what is that I want? You have to speak, because then you make it real. Write it down, make it real, and then take the actions every single day to work towards your goal. So many different goals, but whatever is your personal goal is what's important. I'm not sure, but I think there's going to be a poll question at this point, but if not, we can go to the next slide. Here it is. So this is for you to do right now, is to write a list of 3 goals. What are goals for you? There's nobody else's goals. They're your goals. And if you would like, you can share them in the chat. We would love to talk about things that are real to this group. What is a real goal of somebody's out there? If you are willing to share it, we would just love that. We'd love to talk about it. And if you have more than one goal, then it's important to prioritize, because you have to know where to start. Every day when you wake up, what am I going to do? What am I going to do today to work towards one of my goals? Every single day, your time is limited and you want to use your time well every day to help reach your goal. And so by writing down the goals, by prioritizing the goals, then you know what you need to do to make steps towards that goal each and every single day. So do we have any goals that have been shared? I see one. To save to prepare for retirement. Okay, that is a great goal. So how are you going to do that? Well, to save for retirement, first you have to assess how much extra cash flow you have every month. And even if it's only $100, maybe it's only $20. We want you to put that aside for retirement. I always say pay yourself first. We're going to talk about it later, but that means to set that aside as much as you can. Do you have a retirement plan at work? So if your goal is to save to prepare for retirement, look at what all options are that are most tax efficient for you. I see a goal here from somebody else. Thank you, everybody, for giving me some stuff to look at. I see that, here we go, to get stable housing and launch my candle business. I love that, a candle business. So wonderful, somebody makes candles. I'm sure so many of you have wonderful talents, and people are making really good money selling their crafts, and small businesses are taking off like crazy. So what can you do to market your candle business? What can you do to build your candle business every single day? You make a list of the steps to do that. Well, maybe you open an Etsy account. Maybe you take pictures of your different candles that you make so you can market them. Maybe you start reaching out to family and friends and seeing if people can write reviews for you. If you have a friend that does a website, anything that you can do to help you reach that goal of launching your candle business, even if it's just researching, how do I start a business? So I see another one here, to have a job that supports me and my two children, and to raise my credit score, and to save part of a down payment for a house. So those are some great goals. All right, so to get a job that supports you and your kids, what are you going to do towards that every day? Maybe you need to work on a resume. Maybe you need to reach out to every single contact you have and let them know you're looking for a job. A lot of jobs come by word of mouth. You have networks, you have support groups, you have Operation Hope and Free to Thrive, and all these organizations that are here to help you. If you let them know you're looking for the kind of job that would help you support your kids. As far as raising your credit score, I can tell everybody out there, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, that getting a credit card is very important for raising your credit score. Of course, you want to pay your credit card bill off every month, but in order to raise your credit score, you have to show that you do pay your credit card bill off every month, and you get a credit card, you charge on it, but then you pay it off every month, because we don't want you paying interest on your credit card balance, because that's an expense that you don't want to have. So those are some great goals, and I just urge all of you to really work on goals. This is the very most important first start on financial freedom, because getting yourself financially stable does mean freedom in so many ways, and I can't emphasize that enough. So I'm ready for the next slide. Financial planning, creating a plan to reach your goals. Yes, what I'd like to say is that you're not too small to need some financial advice, or to get help from a financial plan or some financial advice. A lot of people say, well, I don't have enough money. I don't need a financial planner or a financial advisor. Well, I'm your financial advisor. If you need help, I want you to reach out to me. I'm happy to reply to emails. So you can find me. I'm on bluesummitwealth.com, and my email address is there. And I'm offering to be your financial advisor for free. Anytime you have a question, I'm happy to help you if I can. So next slide. So what are you going to do to create a financial plan? You know, you're going to draw up a plan, implement, and monitor it. That's what a financial plan really is. But it really starts with your goals, and then along the way, we get more of a plan, and then we check in on it regularly to make sure we're on track for our financial future. So next slide. Funding your goals. This is so important for all of you right now. How are you going to reach those goals? Is it whether it's saving for part of a down payment for a house or starting the candle business? You first have to assess what you have coming in so that you can manage that, because living within your means is everything. There are people out there who make tons of money, but they spend it all. I say it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So we also know people, and all of you know people who maybe they don't make a lot of money, but they've done very well and set themselves up for a secure future. And that's because they lived within their means. They have not established debt and gotten their credit card bills up and been paying 12, 13, 14, 15% interest. So funding your goals within your means, within the money that's coming in, is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. So next slide. How can your income fund your goals? That's exactly what we're talking about now. How can you, from what income is coming in, cover your living expenses and then have some extra to set aside for those goals, those bigger, longer term goals? Well, there are so many ways that you can take control of your money. We want to start with the small things, because small things add up to something big. Let's look at the next slide, and I think you'll know what we're talking about. You need to find out, and you need to pay attention to, where does your money go? All of the things, all of the decisions that you make every day, it all adds up. So whether you're picking up a meal, when you're eating out, could you, let's say, instead have cooked something at home? Because I can tell you, eating out is probably 3 times more expensive, if not more, than cooking something at home. Entertainment, birthday gifts, video rentals, sports. We're talking about sometimes expenses that aren't necessary. For a gift for your children or your family members, why not make them something homemade, like a candle? Well, I don't make candles, but I can package up something that I've made, for example, some cookies, and I can bake them, and I can wrap them in a beautiful wrapper with a beautiful bow and a nice card. And I can tell you that most people would like a gift like that 10 times more than some kind of a trinket that you bought and paid money for. So all of these decisions are going to add up throughout the year to saving, and that money instead can go towards your goal. Habits, coffee, cigarettes, snacks. These things can be very expensive. It adds up, and we've got a couple slides later showing how much those really add up. And the last one on this list, impulse buying. I want to talk about that for just a minute, because impulse buying is almost always a waste of money. If you haven't gone out shopping for something you really, really need, and you happen to see something, there's a good chance you don't need it. There's a really good chance that you might even be sorry later that you spent your precious money on this thing that you weren't even going out to purchase. So when you're thinking about buying something spur of the moment, ask yourself, do I really need this item? Number one. Number two, how many hours would I have to work to pay for this item? And number three, could I borrow this item from a friend? So let's say you have a special occasion and you would like to have a new outfit. Well, maybe instead you could borrow a dress from a friend just for a one-time, a one-time outing. So impulse buying, let's think of other options, because instead you want to be putting that money towards your goal. So next slide. The 3 R's. We all teach our children, right? Along with freedom comes responsibility. And that's the reality of life and being a grown-up: reality, responsibility, and restraint. So we're talking about that third one here when it comes to spending and watching our spending so that we can save towards our goals. Again, every little decision that you make, every day that you wake up, is going to affect how much you can reach, how quickly you can reach your long-term goals, or if you will even have success at reaching those long-term goals. So next slide. This one I love. So I told you a minute ago, we were going to see how much some of these kind of bad spending habits could cost you, because these small things add up to something big. Well, Starbucks is a great example. It's amazing to me that a coffee out costs $4 when you can make it at home for almost nothing, maybe a quarter, maybe. And if somebody went out to Starbucks every day, they would spend almost $1,500 a year on coffee. Now, that could have instead gone towards their goal if they could have showed restraint. And even if it's something you can afford, again, you're not going to be reaching your goals like you could have if you would have, even if you cut that back. Let's say you cut it back to once a week. Well, now you're going to have saved a good part of that $1,500. Eating out $150 a month. That's really maybe once a week eating out. I would say it just depends what kind of meal. That could be one meal eating out these days. So this adds up to $1,800 a year. Impulse shopping, even if you just spend $50 a week, and that's easy to do, right? We can all do that easily. That would be $2,600 a year. Well, $2,600 a year is a trip. Is a trip for me to go see my daughter on the East Coast. It doesn't even cost me that much. But to me, that would be 2 free trips a year, just stopping that impulse shopping. Now, nail salon. That's a tough one, right? Because we all love to do our nails. I can tell you, I cut back myself right now, going to the nail salon. I used to go once a month, and I now go once every few months. I do my nails myself in between. And you can save a lot of money. So this last one at the very bottom, of course, we've highlighted it because smoking, $7 a day if you smoke a pack a day. And I'm not even sure if that's correct. I don't know, maybe it's more than that. Would be $2,500 a year. And it's very unhealthy, as we all know. So I would urge you to all think about these daily decisions that you make about spending, and just realize all these little things add up. Next slide. Know what you spend. It matters. What I'd like everybody to do on their own, this is not something for this workshop right now, but the very, very best thing you can do is keep a spending record. Write down everything you spend every day. If anybody is interested in a template for a spending record, I've got a spreadsheet that I'm happy to send you. And I started this way when I scratched and crawled my way back. I kept track of every single postage stamp I bought back in 1995 after I finally got divorced. And every day at the end of the day, I would keep a notepad by my bed and I would write down everything that I spent. And it's an eye opener. You really know where the money goes if you're keeping track. And that way you'll know where you can cut back. Next slide. Creative ways to save. So we talked about eating out. You know, do I go to McDonald's with myself and my 3 kids and spend $15? Well, I don't think it'd be more than that, or the same meal at home would be 6. Bottled water. Do we need to buy bottled water? No, we don't need to buy bottled water. Our tap water is perfectly good. So, you know, if you buy them, they're sometimes $1.50 each. You don't need to do that. You know, if you go to the movies, do you need to buy the soda and popcorn? No, you can do the movie at home and make your own popcorn. Cigarettes, well, we already talked about that. Let's just stop smoking. It'd be great if it's that easy, I know, but if you realize how much money you're throwing away, maybe you'll think twice. Mani-pedi, I know we're getting into tough territory here, but if I can cut back on my pedicures, you can. Credit card debt. Simply, again, just pay that off every month. That's very crucial. Next slide. So as a summary, setting your goals, number 1. And I will add, every day that you wake up, make a list of the things you're going to do that day to work towards your goals. Number 2, pay close attention to what you spend. That means tracking your spending and cutting down where you can. And then find the money to fund your goals through paying attention to what you spend, and then always pay yourself first. I think we were going to have a question here on paying yourself first, but I'm not 100% sure. So let me explain. What does pay yourself first mean? Does it mean that as soon as you get a paycheck, you're going to go out and get that manicure? Does it mean that you're going to go out and buy a new blouse for yourself and that's how you pay yourself first? No. Paying yourself first means you're going to put in an account for your long-term goals at least 10% of everything you make. So if you make $1,000, you're going to put $100 in an account and not spend it in the short term, and pay yourself towards your long-term goals. So we want to see you paying yourself first at all times. And that's your homework. And that's the end of my presentation for today. So I am going to hand it over to Yvette from Operation Hope. And you're very lucky to have her in your corner as well. And she's got lots of good things to tell you about how Operation Hope can help you.
Thank you so much, Judith. I appreciate that intro, and thank you so much to Free to Thrive for having me on the workshop today. I appreciate being invited and sharing the information in terms of what Operation Hope offers. So my name is Yvette Casada, and as Susie mentioned, I am a senior financial well-being coach. I specialize in credit and money management, home ownership, and foreclosure prevention. So Operation Hope is more than just financial literacy. We do offer other programs for youth as well, between 13 and 18-year-olds. And then we also have small business development coaches. All of our services are no cost to you. So I know someone mentioned about the candle business, right? So you can reach out to Operation Hope and inquire about a small business coach if maybe credit and money management is not something you necessarily need, or you can do it simultaneously. It's something that can definitely be done. Sophie, could you go ahead to the next slide for me, please? Thank you so much. So right now, these are our locations with Operation Hope. We do have our national call center that is located in Dallas, Texas. So that will be the phone number that you would contact to kind of initiate for other types of services. For credit and money management, home ownership, and foreclosure prevention, you can just contact me directly, and that'll be towards the end of my presentation. You'll have that slide. But just kind of wanted to show you where Operation Hope has a presence. Um, Before the end of the year, we're opening 60 new locations. And then by next year, we're hoping to open another 200. So hopefully those grayed out areas that you see would be colored in so that we have a presence in every state. Because we're working virtually, right now we can help anyone across the country. So although I'm in Escondido, California, well, right now I'm in Temecula because that's where I live. Um, we can help anyone across the country, being that we're on that virtual platform. So it's an advantage for us because now we're able to reach people that maybe before we couldn't, or they might have gone to a different agency just because they did not have, um, access to Operation Hope. If you haven't already heard about our founder and CEO, John Hope Bryant, just look him up. He's on all social media platforms. He has different channels where he talks about different things regarding financial literacy, and right now, what he's pushing really big is the 1 Million Black Business Initiative. And that's providing help with starting up your own business for those people who, you know, maybe they don't really know. This is kind of in addition to the small business coaching that we offer, but this is in conjunction with Shopify. And so I can also put that link in the chat before we end the presentation. But that's just a good resource if you know anyone that might be interested in something like that in terms of us kicking off the business, whether it's a candle business or maybe even, hey, starting your own nail salon business, right? Instead of paying someone else to do it, maybe you can learn that skill yourself, have another stream of income, and that can be a business venture. Next slide, please. All right, so with our credit and money management program, it was designed to transform disabling financial mindsets, teaching people the language of money, how to navigate credit and make better decisions with the money they have. Operation Hope has been around for almost 29 years. And the way it kind of started was, John Hope Bryant, he's originally from Los Angeles. And when those LA riots started in 1992, he saw that people were destroying their community because they weren't stakeholders in those communities. They felt like, we don't have the same rights as other people. We don't own our homes. We don't have good credit. We don't have banks that want to loan to us or open accounts for us. And he wanted to change that mindset. He wanted to let underserved communities know that, yes, you are worthy. Yes, you can own a home. Yes, you can get your credit right. And so credit and money management really was the baby, so to speak, of Operation Hope. And that's kind of what started everything. So through our virtual workshops and the one-on-one counseling, our financial well-being coaches empower clients to take control of their finances by creating a budget, reducing and paying off debt, and clearing errors from their credit reports. 72% of our clients see a FICO score increase, and 25% achieve a 700 plus FICO score just after 6 months of participation. Next slide, please. So each person's budget is different, right? So this kind of echoes a lot of what Judith goes over, and you might see a little similarities between the slides because what Judith presented was excellent, was awesome. I love that she initiated you all to start to write a couple of those goals. If you decide to do that one-on-one assessment with me, I want you to bring those goals to the appointment. I want you to make sure that you you have them in front of you, write them down. Hey, put them on your refrigerator if you have to, because it's a good thing to write those things down, to have a vision board, and to just look at that and to remind yourself that you can achieve those goals. So I thought that was awesome, Judith. So again, with each person's budget, it is different. And so you want to remember to customize it to your life and your expenses. So don't worry about what your neighbor's doing, what your sister's doing, because you are two different people. So what a budget can do is going to tell the financial story using numbers instead of words. Financially speaking, there are two types of people. the ones who tell their money where to go, and the ones who wonder where it went. So you definitely want to keep track of that. It's going to help really just to know where that money is going. Next slide, please. All right, so again, Judith kind of touched on this as well, but I would want for all of you to track your spending at least for the next 30 days. What that does is going to, again, let you know where that money is going, but you can also catch anything that might have come through on your bank account that, hey, I didn't make this purchase, where is this coming from? If you go to Walmart or Target and you spend $100, don't just write $100 for Walmart or Target. You want to break that down in terms of, $75 was for groceries, 15 for clothes, 10 for cleaning products. The same thing when it comes to ATM withdrawals. You take out $100, then track what that $100 was spent on. And again, as Judith mentioned, right, the details down to the penny are so important. And then in terms of how to budget, I do go over this with the 101 assessment in a little more detail, but again, you can keep it simple with budgeting, right? If you want to just use pen and paper, sticky notes, an Excel spreadsheet, most of us have smartphones, and there are a few apps, actually a lot of apps, but these are kind of the top three in terms of how to use these intuitively to save and to budget. We have Every Dollar, Pocket Guard, and Mint. And so during our 101 assessment, we'll build that budget, right? That's personalized for you. I understand that there are some things that you may not feel comfortable disclosing what you spend your money on. So as we're going through, the budget categories, there's a category that is miscellaneous. I like to call it jokingly the none of my business category. So if you don't want to share that information with me, that's okay. But we have to put it on the budget. And then you know where you need to kind of cut back on certain things. But I don't necessarily need to know that, but we want to put it on the budget. I don't want anyone to feel embarrassed or bad about a certain expenditure, and you don't have to tell me that. So the NOB category, as Deanna is saying. Thank you. And then next slide for me, please. All right, so here are some of my tips. Again, some of them might be echoed again from Judith's presentation, but one thing I want to point out is that the goal here is not to limit treats for yourself, but to curtail or cut back the amount of times that you treat yourself, right? So we can also temporarily cut back on certain expenses. For instance, like cable or certain streaming services. Maybe ask if we could use a family or friends Netflix account for a little bit, until we can get back on our feet, or just have that time to save money. I remember about 10 years ago when I was going through my divorce, I was unemployed. I wasn't receiving child support as of yet, and I had 3 kids under the age of 12. I was like, well, we need to cut back on some things. So cable went, a lot of things went, right? And we just go over to my mom's house and, watch TV. But, everyone goes through different things. And we just have to temporarily cut certain things out. And I know it's a little bit harder these days, especially if you do have kids, because they're so used to being tied in technology wise and things like that. But even for Wi-Fi, they have, packages just like $10 a month. And some of them are income based as well. Or like if your child goes to a certain school, they might even get a discount or free Wi-Fi. And that's all you really need to then be able to access other things. So just think of that when it comes to reducing expenses. Besides, as Judith mentioned, you want to cut down on eating out every day, meal plan when possible. You could always cook and have certain meals frozen. So that way all you have to do is pop it right in the oven or in the microwave. And then choose a big one, because sometimes we get so used to being with our bank or our credit union and we don't realize all the fees that are involved, right? Even if we go to like an outside ATM, we're charged $3, $4. I personally bank with Fidelity Investments primarily, and they reimburse my ATM fees. So if I go to an outside ATM that charges me $4, Fidelity will give me back that $4. Fidelity doesn't charge NSF fees or non-sufficient fund fees. So if by mistake or even on purpose, if you overdraft your account and it's negative, they will not charge you a fee on top of being negative. So just doing your research and checking to see how you can reduce banking expenses, even if it means switching banks, that could save you $10, $20, $30 a month right there. Next slide, please. And then we want to have you check your car insurance. Most car insurance companies were automatically offering rebates, but you might want to just give them a call and see if they're still offering that. Also, if you are now working from home and you're not traveling as much, you're not driving maybe that 15,000, 20,000 miles a year, call to adjust that mileage. You can save anywhere between $20 and $100 a month on your premium. I did that last May and I saved about $65 a month since I've been working from home for over a year now. So that again can save you money. With cell phone and cable bundles as well, you can do that by just calling them, asking if there's any types of rebates that they're offering. And then another thing I kind of want to add, if you do have credit cards and you're struggling to make the payment, a lot of credit card companies as well are offering like a 2-month deferred payment, but you have to call. They're not just automatically going to give that to you. And I would only do that if you really are struggling to make the payments. If you can still make your payments, then just go ahead and continue doing that. But if you are struggling, then you can contact your credit card company. And then lastly, if you are looking to purchase a new home or buy a home rather, you might not want to buy a new car just because on average, car notes about $450, insurance $250, and then car gas and maintenance about $300. Total monthly expense $1,000. So most first-time home buyers don't qualify for a home loan because of this monthly expense. Now, if you're not looking to purchase a home until maybe 2-3 years down the road, go ahead and buy the new car, but there's nothing wrong with buying a used car that might be just a few years old that will still last you, for a good long while. So it does take a lot of discipline to save, but it is worth it. And being financially stable provides a sense of security, self-confidence, and the power over your life and future. Next slide, please. So during our one-on-one session, we'll create an action plan. We'll set short and long-term realistic financial goals to work towards. We'll include dollar amounts and a time frame, again assigning each dollar a purpose. Create a budget, or as I like to call it, because no one likes that B word, right? Budget, personal spending plan. We're following a personal spending plan that can and will help to free up money to begin paying off debt and saving money for the things that matter most to each person. As debt is paid off, money will be freed up and should be used to increase your emergency savings, as well as other savings account for specific items, whether that's a vacation, whether it's towards purchasing an auto, different things. And then we want you to stick to it. So each participant will receive a follow-up every 30 days to check in and help to remind you of your action plan items and just to see, how you're doing. Next slide. So we want you to have access to your credit report. Whether you are doing that right now by maybe utilizing Credit Karma or Credit Sesame, you can also go on to annualcreditreport.com, which is allowing you to pull your credit reports from all 3 credit bureaus once a week through April of 2022. So you can have your actual credit report from all 3, which is excellent. Before it was only once a year that you could do this. And then the once a week was set to expire this month. They extended it for another year. So good information to have. You won't receive your FICO score. That's something separate, but at least you'll know what's in your report. And I would say you want to check your credit report at least once a month, just to make sure that everything is correct, whether there's any items that are popping up that you're unaware of. And if you do decide to set up that one-on-one with me, we go through that line by line. We use TransUnion when we pull your credit report, and it's a soft pull, so it doesn't hurt your credit score at all. It's not a negative or anything on your report because we're not pulling it for a purpose of granting credit. We're pulling it for financial literacy and empowerment and letting you know kind of what steps you need to take in order to help increase that credit score or remove any type of negative items. I do also want to mention that I do standalone credit workshops and home ownership workshops. So the credit workshop standalone, it's a little bit more in depth than what I'm presenting here. So if you're interested in that, you could also click on my Eventbrite, and that's going to be shared a little bit later on. Next slide. So if you guys want to screenshot this or take a picture, I know that the information will be shared, but again, if you want to just take a picture of that, you can. I'm not sure if there were any questions in the chat box. I'll kind of dive in there in just a little bit, but that's my portion. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Susie.
Wow, thanks so much, Yvette and Judy. So much great information. We will definitely, we have had a lot of great questions in the chat that I think we're able to answer a few of them. But again, if you have anything specific for any of our speakers today, feel free to add that and we can address them at the very end. But when we send you the email with the recording, we'll make sure that we have everybody's contact info. So you can reach out to Yvette, Judy, Nikki, Dion, or myself if needed. So don't worry about that. And now I'm very excited to reintroduce Nikki and Dion to kind of review everything that we've learned today, and for Nikki to share, her tips, tools, and advice on overcoming challenges and empowering things that you can do to really reach those financial goals. So we are going to launch the first poll question. We kind of move things around a little bit. So we're going to launch the first poll question right now. And then Dion and Nikki, I think we'll just have you kind of address the answers, the responses. And so we'll have three poll questions, three questions while you guys are speaking. So I'll hand it over to Nikki and Dion.
Hello, everyone. Let's start with our first poll question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel in your ability to manage your finances without any help? This is where you indicate the information. It's okay to be honest. Excited to see your answers. Here we go. What? 4 to 6, 50% on the high end. That is awesome. That is awesome. So you guys don't need us? Is that what we're saying? Raise your hand if you still need us. I can't see. Anyway, I thank you guys for sharing. Thank you guys for sharing. I am super excited. Thank you guys. I see you responding. We need you. Thank you guys for responding. I am super excited to be sharing the spotlight with Nikki Bell. Oh no, they put up a second poll question. Get ready, you guys. When you earn money, what do you believe paying yourself first means to you? Please choose one. Buy yourself something first as a reward to yourself, then pay your bills. Set aside at least 10% for savings, or pay your bills first, then buy something for yourself. Don't think about the workshop information that was shared by Judith and Yvette, but be honest. Share where you are today. Wow. Pay the bills first, then buy something for yourself. Oh, wow. This is kind of balanced. Set aside 10% for savings, buy yourself something first. Okay, so pay your bills first. It sounds like you guys are focused on the positive. So this is very encouraging because that means that Yvette will be able to help you move you along further. So super exciting. Are we going to do another poll or do we jump right in?
Go for it.
We're jumping right in. Oh, awesome. Nikki, are you there?
I am.
There she is. Thank you for joining us today. We are so excited to have you here as a survivor leader, as well as CEO of Lift. What is it?
Living
in freedom together. Yes. And so today, our awesome speakers shared about financial goals and specifically financial freedom just ahead. The polls that we just shared was some important information. It sounds like most of the attendees are on their way to making good decisions, and that's awesome. But we all could learn a little something, right? We haven't done everything correctly. And I'm so glad that you decided to join us today so that you can share with us some of the challenges that you have overcome, because you being here tells us you've overcome some stuff, as well as the transition in your mindset to become financially stable, and then the victories from that mindset. And so let's jump right into responsibility. So the reality is money isn't everything, but everything needs money. And based on what Judith and Yvette shared with us today, what do you believe your biggest challenge was in that particular issue? Everything needed money.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think for me, when I first got out of the life, I think we don't talk enough about how, yes, you need money for everything, but also money can be a real trigger for a lot of us. So we're so accustomed to like money, like, when you're in prostitution or when you're being exploited in the sex trade, you are often not in control of your money. We're not didn't start with like the skills. Like, I was listening to Judith talk about having that foundation that she grew up with. So most people that end up being exploited in the sex trade do not come out of that kind of environment where you had parents that taught you how to manage your money and do all of those things. I know I certainly didn't have any of those skills. And so for me, when I exited, it was, the responsibility in learning how to manage my money was really, really difficult. And I had to rely on like resources in my community to help me do that. I think even now, 7 years, I'll be celebrating 7 years out next week. And I still need support around, finances and planning for my future and my children's future.
What would you say was your biggest challenge?
So I think my biggest challenge was not having any employment history, not having any savings or foundation to start with. When I exited, I actually had to go to a shelter for people experiencing homelessness, and I had no job, no access to any benefits or funds. So I think starting out, people always look at people that are experiencing poverty as if it's a budgeting problem and you can budget your way out of poverty. That's actually not true. And so when, you're trying to survive on, public assistance and things like that, which do not even give you enough money to pay rent or buy food. It's really not a budgeting issue. It's about how do you start to earn and build a foundation for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you for openly sharing. And we celebrate your 7-year mark.
Thank you.
So also in talking about responsibility, money is the tool, right? but money is to be valued. And so I think about the transition, and especially when you state that you didn't have any employment history. So this becomes a challenge when our focus here is start small, end big. Where was the small start that you had?
So I started volunteering and learning skills and gaining some type of like, volunteer work and history to put on my resume at a peer recovery support center, and learning how to believe in myself, and also take some of those skills that I learned in the life and transfer them into kind of the square world, I guess. And so for me, it was like really starting like making small goals, completing trainings I set out to, or workshops, opening a bank account. I didn't start out, with this idea that to be honest, I believed when I exited the life that, I'm sorry, my children just came home.
It's okay.
So I didn't start out when I got out of the life having these massive goals of wanting to own a home or provide for my children. I started out with wanting to be able to put a roof over my head, wanting to be able to be employable, wanting to get my driver's license back. And then you start to build on those small successes until you have larger ones.
I love how you put that. So one of the things that was shared by both Judith and Yvette today was knowing where your money is going, opposed to wondering, when did this transition happen for you?
So, I started, so I was able to access initially when I got out, some like Social Security benefits, essentially. So I started working actually with a payee to help me manage and put aside money and be able to budget and find an apartment that was appropriate for my needs. And so as I started to understand the value of money and what I needed to manage every month, then I was able to start to put aside a small amount to kind of build a savings account and move forward. I'm just going to take my Sorry, I'm going to take my computer in the other room. 1 second.
That's okay. We're all transitioning from the remote working, right? Awesome.
Sorry.
Working mom.
Yes, 2 children. And it's
So
4
did you
o'clock
finish your
here
statement?
in Massachusetts. So, I began to be able to like put aside my, like learning what I needed to survive and how to save money. I think also in the life, there's this idea that you have to like present yourself in a certain way and have your hair done and your nails done and have fancy clothes, right? Because the sex trade is really glamorized in that way. And, learning that that's not true. You can look nice on a budget. You don't have to, buy things outside of your means to present a certain image to the world.
I love that you stated that, the NOB category on the budget. I love that, Yvette. So you spoke of when you first got out of the light and how you had to rely on resources. I think about the transition from relying on the resources to really becoming financially stable and independent. How was that transition for you?
Sure. So I actually went from a shelter to a small room and relying on public benefits for my disability, to then transitioning into employment and making sure I could sustain that employment. And so for me, I think, when I got pregnant with my then 5-year-old, looking at our budget and recognizing that we could actually afford an apartment that was large enough for my family. And I think I have been in transition the entire time since I exited the life. Really, I think that's
Yeah.
what people think is like you set this goal and
Right.
you make it and then you're out, right? I think exiting is a lifelong process and you're constantly
Right.
learning.
Right.
And actually, I, you know, came off the benefits and was working at a full-time job, and then decided that I was going to leave that full-time job and build this nonprofit, and went back into was again unemployed, right? Which was a
Yes.
really scary time. But I had
Yes.
to believe in myself and that the
Mhm.
purpose of our organization, and that I was going to be able to make it. And I found people in my community that believed in what we were doing, and I
Yeah.
learned the skills I needed to be able to build a thriving organization. And today I have that freedom. I'm not wealthy by any means, but
Yes.
we are able to save and take care of our children, and live a healthy, productive life.
Thank you for sharing that. So I just have two more questions. A couple of our attendees are talking about raising their credit score, and they also talked about starting their own business and also getting their own place. When we're focused on starting small and ending big, where does that dynamic fall? Because you fit in those three goals that they have set for themselves, and look at you now celebrating 7 years and smiling. And I'm pretty sure, especially when you talked about finances, there wasn't always a smile, and now there is. So share that with us, please.
Yeah. So, I think it was really like you said, setting those small goals. Even when I started, I had no credit, right? So for, since I was 17 years old, existed in kind of this subculture within prostitution where we don't use, credit cards or have bank accounts or any of those things. So it was really like starting completely fresh. And so I had to start with small I can't think of the word, the credit card that you use to start rebuilding your secured credit card. Yes.
Nice.
A small secured credit card, and doing exactly what Susie talked about, was like paying my phone bill with it, paying it off, paying my phone bill. And I was able to see that progress over even just a year of doing that was really reinforcing that I was doing the right thing. Right. And then 7 years later, we were able to purchase our own home. Please stop, Sebastian. I'm sorry. I leave the room and he follows me down.
Sebastian. Working
and
mom.
So, yeah, being able to, really see that the work that I was doing to rebuild my life, financially, attaining housing, doing all of those things. It's really start small with a small goal.
I love it. And so what I will say is we're coming to the end, and we do know that once you overcome things, it is a never-ending journey, and constantly reminding yourself, even though you're going to fall down and you might fall backwards and you might get setbacks, the focus is to continue to move forward. So money you make can be a symbol of the value you create. And so I would like for you, as we close, for you to share the victory. Whereas when you look at other people, they may not have seen it as a victory, but what was that thing that you saw as a victory that motivated you to continue on your journey to become financially stable? Or first, maybe I should ask, do you consider yourself financially stable?
I do, actually, for the first time in my life.
And what does that look like?
So, I'm employable. I am able to save a little bit every month. I have money set aside if there was an emergency or something was to happen in my house. And so for me, like having that kind of savings and being employed, to me is what that freedom feels like.
Awesome. And thank you for sharing it that way. because it may look different. Financial stability looks different for everyone, right? So the goal, as we talk about it today, becoming financially stable, and Judith did a great job of sharing the ways to, and then Yvette from Operation Hope did a great job of sharing how she can help them stay focused on their goal. So the goal is not to get more money, but how do you use the money that you have? And when I say share with us the victory, and when you saw what you were doing was really working enough for you to keep moving forward.
Yeah, for me, I feel like we're so devalued in the sex trade and as survivors. And for me, it wasn't so much like that. It was like earning a certain salary was going to be my success. It was actually like seeing the value in myself, right? And believing that I had value in this world outside of my body, and being able to then use my voice and create something that didn't exist before in my community. So I didn't set out with this goal of really becoming or doing anything. I set out to recover from the impacts that being exploited had on me, and in that process found confidence and found worth, and that made me be able to start planning for my financial future.
Well, we love it. Thank you so much for sharing. We say experience is the best teacher. So for you to lend your voice to encourage those who are attending today on becoming financially stable, and you've also given them some encouragement on how you start small, but you end big, and also where I feel like in your face, it shows you've been empowered. And I want to leave you with the last thoughts of encouraging words to our attendees today.
Yeah, so I guess it would be to believe in yourself and know your worth, and not settle until you reach the goals that you've set, because I think we are so trained and dehumanized and belittled within the sex trade and being trafficked, that we often believe that we don't have any worth in this world, and that is not true. And so no matter what, regardless if it's whether you want to start a candle business or go back to school, know that if you can do those things if that's what you set your heart to.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing. We're turning it back over to you, Susie.
Wow, that was awesome. Nikki, thank you so much. I don't know about all you guys, but I feel extremely inspired and empowered, and we had so much great information and tips that I think we can all use in our daily life for lots of different reasons, not just financial. So Nikki, thank you so much. Dion, great job. Thank you, Judy and Yvette. I know we've answered a few questions, and thank you everyone for being so active in the chat. It's always great to see that. But if anyone has anything specific, we can do it now. I know we're about a minute away from closing down here, but of course, again, we'll give everybody's contact info, so that way you can reach out to them individually if you have any other questions. So with that, maybe Sophie, let's go ahead. I don't see any questions coming in. If you guys want to take a screenshot or a picture with your phone, here is some of the information, but we will send the same slide back to you by tomorrow. And then next slide. If you need a workshop completion certificate, just to show that you have finished this workshop, please just reach out to Sophie at freetothrive.org. Thank you also, Sophie, for being our training coordinator, everything on the backside of Zoom today. So she's been great. Thanks, Sophie. But she can get you a certificate if it's needed. Next slide. most importantly, stay vigilant, watch your email, and we will get back to you again, but within the next 24 hours about who's won our 3 $25 gift cards today. And once we reach out to you and let you know if you are a winner, then we'll just need a mailing address where we can send that gift card. So hopefully, everybody cross your fingers and toes. You'll be notified by tomorrow. Next slide. For future FEA workshops, we don't have an exact date and time for workshop 5 or workshop 6, but you can always stay up to date with everything on our website, freetothrive.org, on our Financial Empowerment Academy page. We also will mention them in our e-blast if you're on our mailing list, and also on social media. So, and you can of course reach out to any of us and ask us, but hopefully we will be having another one within the next 60 days. So we'll keep you posted. Next slide. And with that, I will close this up 1 minute past 1:15. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed the information, that you found it really helpful. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or need anything else. But we're really grateful that you joined us today. And again, thank you to all of our incredible speakers. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your Thursday. And it's almost Friday, so a great weekend too. Thanks, everybody.